Story 1. 10:43 p.m., penthouse floor. The keycard unlocked a door that wasn't on any map. The hallway was too quiet for a place this expensive, and the lights dimmed just enough to notice when I stepped out of the elevator. I held the black keycard the client sent me and told myself this was routine, clean, predictable. But the air felt staged, like the whole floor waited for me to make the first wrong move. A clean, recently passed perfume drifted along the wall as I approached the suite number she texted. The light traced the outline of a mouth on the steel frame. I lifted the keycard, but before it neared the reader, the door hummed and slid open. Muffled voices inside cut off mid-word. I stepped in carefully. A jacket sat draped over a chair, still warm under my fingertips when I brushed the collar as if fixing it. The warmth didn't match the chilled room. Someone had been here. Maybe still was. Hello. My voice vanished into the dark. A reply came from my left, her voice but too close, ending in a warm breath against my ear. I turned fast. Nothing. My client had said she wasn't arriving until 11. And she definitely wasn't supposed to be inside a suite that didn't officially exist. A single glass on the counter sweated like a hand had just released it. Steam curled from the cracked bathroom door in slow breaths. I checked the floor plan again. No mention of this space. No reason for it to look lived in. I crouched near the inner door sensor, trying to make sense of it all, when a knee brushed mine beneath the counter ledge, light, firm, unhurried. The warmth lingered even after I jerked back. The shower dripped in a slow rhythm, each drop sounding almost like a step deciding whether to leave the bathroom. I backed toward the hall. A loose strand of long dark hair clung to my cuff. When I brushed it away with my fingertips, my skin tightened, reacting before I did. The mirror by the entry stayed calm, offering no explanation for the steam that kept drifting out. I slipped into the hallway. The door slid halfway closed, then froze in a heavy silence that felt humid, like the room held its breath with me. My own breathing steadied in short counts, and the suite seemed to follow the rhythm, patient and listening. My phone buzzed. I'm in the elevator. Don't go inside yet. Yet. She claimed she wasn't anywhere near this floor. I typed a reply but didn't send it. A soft mechanical hum rose from the elevator shaft. Too slow for her, too soft to be empty. I turned back to the unlisted door. It had finished closing. When I raised the keycard, a faint warmth clung to my wrist, as if a hand had rested there moments before. The scent on my skin didn't match hers. It was sharper, fresh, stubborn. The reader blinked once, almost deciding whether it recognized me. The hallway lights dimmed again. I felt someone behind me before I heard the whisper. A warm breath grazed my ear. That door was never yours to open. I spun toward the voice. No one. But the echo answered from behind me, where the unlisted suite waited with its lock pulsing uncertain green. Footsteps stirred inside. Slow. Certain. I swiped the keycard. The lock flashed red, then green, like it couldn't decide whose permission mattered. Cold air slipped through the widening gap. Later, building staff insisted the card was never activated for any room on this floor. The logs were clean. Empty. Impossible. And the scent on my collar from that night still hasn't washed out. Would you have stepped into that room, or run? Story 2. 1:12 a.m. on level B3, a briefcase sat on the hood of the client's car with its latches slightly open. I walked toward the reserved spot, the concrete swallowing my steps, the fluorescent hum pressing down like a hand on my back. The case didn't belong there. It faced me, hinged as if mid-breath. My own bag felt heavier on my shoulder, as if weighing my options for me. The space was empty except for the car, the case, and the cold that never seemed to leave this floor. He emerged from behind a pillar, his perfume recent pasado drifting ahead of him, warm against the stale air. Our shoulders almost touched, a quiet rocar that felt intentional. The light caught the shape of his mouth when he whispered, "That isn't mine." A timing de silencio stretched between us before he added, barely audible, "Don't touch it." I nodded, but he still looked wired. He stepped closer to adjust his sleeves and I reached out to fix his collar. Professional reflex, nothing more. My fingertips brushed the Tosido K Aranhava de Leve, heat lingering beneath it. The briefcase clicked softly behind us, a sound too focused to be random. When I turned, the latch seemed a breath wider. He tried to talk about his meeting upstairs, but his voice leaned toward my ear instead of the open space. His sentences ended in a low murmurio, each one wrapped in respiracao quent that brushed the edge of my jaw. My pelle arrabbiata reacted before I could steady myself. "They knew I'd be here," he whispered, the words landing inside my ear. The latches looked untouched when I checked again. Too untouched. I suggested we move to a brighter section, but he shook his head too fast. The garage doors slammed shut one by one, a heavy sequence rolling through the floor. My phone lost signal instantly, screen dimming like it knew to stay quiet. The air tightened, colder and somehow closer. We sat on the low barrier and when he shifted, his knee touched mine, firm, present. He didn't pull away. The humidade du air thickened around us, carrying his breath even when he wasn't facing me. Behind us, metal slid. The briefcase had turned slightly, angling itself toward my bag. No draft. No movement. No explanation. A strand of his hair slipped across his face, and I brushed it aside with the Ponta dos Dedos, a preseo leave that made his skin tremble under the touch. But the hood of his car trembled too, almost imperceptibly, like something pushed from inside the metal. His eyes darted to the far end of the garage where no shape should stand. The shadows felt alert. We fell into a silence that felt watched. Our breathing overlapped, the garage holding each exhale like evidence. The fluorescence buzzed, hesitated, then died. Total quiet. Total stillness. "Someone's here," he whispered. The echo came from behind us. No footsteps. No body. Just the voice returning from a place where no one stood. A shadow moved near the far column, slow enough to notice, wrong enough to freeze me. My phone lit with a notification despite having no signal. "Your pickup is complete." It vanished instantly. When I looked back, the briefcase was pointed directly at me as if adjusting its posture. He stepped back from me, but the calor na pelle on my arm stayed, along with a perfume recent pasado that wasn't his. My bag's zipper hung open. I knew I hadn't left it that way. The briefcase slid half an inch across the hood, aligning itself with my bag. "Don't let it touch your things," he whispered. He came closer, breath brushing my ear with a soft calor no pescoco. "They're trying to switch them," he murmured. "Your bag, for that one." A second voice repeated the same words. "Wrong client," from the opposite side of me where no one stood. The briefcase's latches eased open, like it understood the correction. I bolted for my car and popped the trunk, desperate for something normal. The interior light flickered once. The briefcase sat inside, perfectly centered, replacing my bag. My own bag was crumpled in the corner, its zipper torn wider. The client stared from a distance, whispering, "I told you not to touch it," though we both knew neither of us had. Security later claimed the tapes for B3 were corrupted. Only that floor, only that night. And sometimes when I open my car door, I still smell that sharp perfume that wasn't his. If a case knew your name, would you still leave it behind? Story 3. 11:08 p.m., the fire door in the service corridor stood unlocked with no alarm. The back-of-house corridor at the Marriott was the kind of place guests aren't supposed to see: gray walls, low humming lights, carpet with no pattern so no one remembers it later. I'd come in through the loading dock like they asked, past crates of banquet dishes and a bored dishwasher on his smoke break. The fire door at the end of the hallway was propped with a housekeeping cart, a thin blade of light showing underneath. No alarm. No blinking red. Just a metal plate pretending tonight didn't count. The handler met me halfway down the corridor, suit a little too sharp for event coordinator, smile a little too rehearsed for anything casual. We walked side by side toward the fire door, our shoulders almost touching, his perfume clean and recent. The light from the exit sign painted his mouth in red every time he turned to check if I was listening. His sleeve brushed my wrist for a second, a warm circle lingering there longer than it should. He told me the meeting room had been switched last minute, same floor just through the fire door. It sounded wrong, but he said it with the confidence of someone expecting obedience. I reached for the handle and, pretending professionalism, adjusted the edge of his collar. My fingers grazed warm fabric just long enough to feel the air thicken. The door eased inward without resistance. When I let go, it swung back and latched in silence. He leaned in, voice close, words landing warm against my ear. "Don't linger in the corridor." Each phrase ended with a pause that made the door feel like it was listening. When he stepped back, his eyes flicked to the small window in the fire door, checking for movement. I didn't see anyone, but the glass felt aware in a way that made me keep my hands still. I waited until his footsteps faded before trying the handle again. The door moved easily, a quiet inhale of metal, revealing only a thin slice of darkness beyond. A table edge caught stray emergency light from somewhere it shouldn't. I told myself this was standard political paranoia. Side entrances, alternate rooms. But the metal under my palm felt warm, like someone had just stepped away. When I entered, the conference table legs scraped softly, directional, as if someone had adjusted them a moment earlier. I sat down to steady myself, and a knee brushed mine beneath the table. Not hard. Not accidental. A pressure that didn't retreat. I froze, listening to the stale air. Then a folded note slid under the fire door, listing my arrival steps before I'd even taken them. I bent to pick it up, but a loose strand of my hair fell forward. Before I could move, invisible fingertips swept it aside, gentle, precise. My skin prickled along my temple. I jolted upright, but no one stood close enough to have touched me. The warmth of that gesture still hovered near my shoulder, a ghost of contact with no owner. I stepped back from the table, waiting for something. Footsteps, a hinge, even a breath. But the room settled into a heavy silence, the kind that listens more than it echoes. My breathing felt too loud. The fire door seemed farther away than it was. The exit sign cast a faint reflection in the window. My outline was there, and a second shape beside it that didn't belong to me. I backed toward the door, keeping the table between us. The note felt heavier now, as if someone had pressed it into my hand instead of sliding it across the floor. I pushed the door slightly. The corridor looked brighter, like a flashlight beam had just moved away. Discretion was one thing. Choreography was another. This felt like choreography. I opened the door wider, and heat clung to my forearm, the warmth of a body leaving too late. A faint trace of fresh perfume marked the metal edge. Behind me, something scraped. The table had shifted again, only an inch, but enough to show intent. On its surface, a folder waited with my name typed cleanly on the label. It hadn't existed a minute earlier. A figure stepped into the fire door window, close enough to fog the glass. Their silhouette blocked the only exit. I felt their stare like a hand between my shoulders. A murmur brushed my ear from behind, though no one stood there. "Don't keep them waiting." The echo came again from the opposite corner, where no shadow moved. I shoved the fire door open. The corridor was empty, but the meeting room on the other side wasn't the one I'd come through. This one was bright, chairs aligned with unnatural precision. At the head of the table sat the folder with my name, placed as if someone expected me to sit. Security later swore the room wasn't booked. Housekeeping said no setups were scheduled. Yet the warmth on my neck stayed, persistent, intimate, like someone was still leaning close to ask how much privacy is too much to ask for. Story 4. 5:56 a.m., the intercom at Gate C spoke my name before anyone else did. The private terminal felt half awake, lights humming, carpet holding last night's cold. I was there as a companion, nothing more, a paid shadow beside a star athlete. Gate C was empty except for the intercom by the locked jetway door. When it clicked on again and repeated my name, my real name, I tried to blame the wiring, but the static clung to me like intent. I stepped closer to her. Her perfume was fresh, warm, drifting off her collar. The light shaped her mouth on the glass. The intercom cracked, spilling half a boarding code only she should know. Her sleeve brushed my wrist, a soft drag that felt too perfectly timed for an accident. Behind the hiss, I thought I heard someone waiting for my reply. I adjusted her jacket collar to look busy. My fingertips skimmed the warm fabric, just enough contact to feel chosen. The intercom spat another fragment. Handler? Confirm. C7? I wasn't her handler. I wasn't on any manifest. The panel buzzed like it expected obedience anyway. She leaned in, whispering too close, her breath settling in my ear. She tried to recall a clearance code her real handler used. The intercom matched her cadence, hissing softly in a strange imitation. A heavy silence followed, stretched just long enough to feel deliberate. I checked the wall map. No downstairs. No secondary wing. Just a simple charter layout. The athlete watched me like I should know what any of this meant. I was hired to provide composure, not decode airport static. When the receptionist walked off to print forms, the room felt emptied of witnesses. Her knee brushed mine under the table. She didn't move away. The pressure was light, steady. Then a badge slid from beneath the printer tray. My photo, my name, a shift timestamp I never worked. The laminate held the faint trace of her perfume and something else, something off by a few minutes. She reached for the badge, and while lifting a stray hair from my forehead, her touch sent a small shiver along my skin. "They think you're my handler," she whispered. But no one told me why. The intercom's green light pulsed once, as if responding to her fingertips on me. We didn't speak. The quiet thickened. Her shoulder nearly touched mine, a slow brush each time she inhaled. The intercom clicked. Not a code, an exhale, uneven like someone adjusting their mouth to the mic. "Bring her down, now." But there was no down. I told her we should wait for staff. She half nodded, half tensed. The hallway outside Gate C was too still. No carts, no crew. I tried the jetway door. Locked. Not electronic. When I pressed my ear to it, I heard no engines, just a shuffle close to the metal, like someone standing perfectly still on the other side. Heat warmed my skin where her arm grazed mine. Her fingertip traced the corner of the badge, barely touching. The intercom hissed. Her perfume lingered on the laminate longer than it should. Then a calm voice said, "Handler, confirm arrival. Open the door." She stepped behind me, breath brushing my ear. A murmur I couldn't catch. The jetway intercom rang, from behind the locked door, echoing through metal like a mouth too close to the wrong side. A gentle pressure touched my back, guiding me toward it. A shadow passed under the door with no source of light. Security arrived late. Nothing worked. No logs, no flight records, no sign of a scheduled departure. The receptionist denied printing any badge with my face. The athlete stared at the jetway door, waiting for it to call again. Records showed no departures from Gate C for the next hour. Yet the badge in my pocket carried her perfume, and as I passed a dim maintenance corridor, an unseen intercom clicked once, like it recognized me. Story 5. 9:20 p.m., a rural highway, and a folder that wasn't there a minute ago sat on the passenger seat. I pulled us back onto the road after a short stop, trying to convince myself I'd just missed it earlier. My client stared at the folder like it had grown there out of the dark. He swore he never brought anything with him. I believed him. Mostly. The edges shifted with a dry rustle even though the windows were shut tight. His clean, recently passed perfume drifted between us as our shoulders brushed. The dashboard light caught the curve of his mouth, and warmth radiated from the folder as if someone had held it seconds before. I reached over to steady it when it slid an inch toward me. Just an inch, but enough to raise my pulse. I adjusted the collar of his jacket, my fingers brushing the warm fabric for a second too long. The papers inside shivered in response, like they were waiting to feel skin again. He leaned in closer than he needed to. His next words landed at my ear, a warm, slow breath that made the cabin shrink. "Just don't open it yet," he murmured, letting silence finish the thought he didn't share. The folder seemed to listen with us. I tried to focus on the empty road ahead. No lights, no houses, just asphalt and dark fields. The folder tilted toward me as if it had intentions. My client kept tapping his knee, glancing from me to the window to the folder like he expected something to reach for it. A bend in the road nudged his knee against mine under the console. He didn't move away. A thin heat lingered on my leg, heavier than the air should have allowed. The papers rustled again, too sharp for coincidence, and I checked the mirror, suddenly sure someone sat in the back seat even though it was empty. A jolt lifted the cover a fraction. A strand of his hair fell across his cheek, and I brushed it aside without thinking. His skin rose in a tight shiver. The dashboard light flickered once, unsure where to place his shadow. We fell into a silence thick enough to hear each other breathe. The folder gave a soft whisper from inside, a single page shifting as if reacting to that breath. The quiet that followed felt intentional, like someone invisible waited for our next move. That was when I saw the headlights behind us. Far back at first, then closer, then perfectly steady. My client's hand drifted toward the folder's edge, and the moment he touched it, the trailing car's beams dipped once, like a nod meant for the folder rather than for us. He pulled his hand away fast, but a small patch of warmth remained on the cover. A clean, lingering perfume clung to my arm, too strong for such a small movement, and it didn't fade. It felt rooted in the papers themselves as if they had breathed it out. A dark SUV slid out from a side road and blocked the lane ahead. I hit the brakes hard. My client leaned in, his breath warm at my ear. They said I had to finish the meeting alone. The echo of that whisper rose from behind us where no one sat. I opened the folder, hand shaking. The top photo showed my face, timestamped 5 minutes in the future. If you saw your own face in that folder, what would you do next? I don't remember handing it over. The SUV took the folder and vanished down a dirt turnoff like it knew the route by heart. Later, the dashcam showed the folder never moved an inch. But the pursuing car was real. And sometimes on long night drives, I hear a page shift beside me waiting for me to look.